everyone, this is Daniel Scranton, and Kalyandra is here as well. She'll probably do a few walks on the catwalk in front of the laptop stand. Today's bonus video is about the simplicity of certain teachings and how powerful a really simple message can be for all of us, regardless of who we are, what we're living. And the one that jumps out at me, I think about certain ones from time to time, and I don't know if I need to talk about more than one today because this one is so good. It's so powerful. And if you don't know it, you're in for a treat. Okay, so apparently this is attributed to Mahatma Gandhi, and he said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And this is why that message is more powerful than any complex series of activations and light languages and 12, well, no, that's a bad example. Spiritual steps that you would have to take that require you to take all this time and energy and effort to do something, which I can't think of an example right now of one of those. But like just going to yoga, just like I went and did yoga for almost every day for 6 months when I was living in Santa Monica, and I loved it. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with me doing that, but I love the simplicity of be the change you want to see in the world, which is like saying, I'm going to extrapolate on this now and say, don't ask the world to change for you. Don't ask the world to be more peaceful, less violent, filled with less hate, less bigotry, less racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia. Don't just ask the world to be a better place so that you can walk around in it and feel safe and loved and all of those things. Be what you want to see is an even shorter way of saying it. So what does that mean? It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out and do a program where you're trying to get guns off the street. You're buying guns, no question asked, for twice their value or something. I don't know. You don't have to create the school for the children who are forbidden to go to school in the traditional schools, wherever this is, this fictional place I'm making up, to make that difference that you want to see in the world. You can hold that vibration and you're being it. So if you think about equality, which is like fairness, I'm a big fan of fairness. I like to be fair with other people because I like it when people are fair with me. So equality. I almost went off on a tangent there, but I didn't. So equality, you know what it feels like when everyone's being treated with an equal amount of respect. Everyone's being honored in the same way, regardless of how much money they have, what gender they are, what race they are, what sexuality they identify with, that person and all of the people are being treated equally, fairly, being given the same opportunities. As I talk about it now, I'm starting to feel what that feels like. I'm envisioning things in my mind of people, here's a great example of an attempt to do this by, I think, a very well-meaning business. Cafe Gratitude, which is now almost exclusively in Southern California. Used to have restaurants in Northern California too. I've been to so many Cafe Gratitudes, and a lot of them are now closed, unfortunately. But they have this deal where people, a homeless person could come in off the street and get a bowl. I forget what kind of, I think it's called a Gratitude Bowl. So it's called the Gratitude Bowl. And the thing about the Gratitude Bowl is that you can pay whatever you want for it. I think there might be a minimum of what you can pay. I'm not sure. But it's all organic food. It's all organic vegan. So it's really, really healthy. And it was an attempt to get people into the restaurants who wouldn't normally be able to go into a restaurant and sit down and eat. Now, I've been to a lot of these Cafe Gratitudes, and I've never seen a person who looked like they were homeless sitting at the counter eating a Gratitude Bowl. But the intention is there, right? So that's something that comes to mind for me when it comes to what's equality. What is the feeling of everyone is being treated fairly? And again, I don't have to create my own restaurant where I say, I think John Bon Jovi has done this as well. Someone like John Bon Jovi has a restaurant like this, where you pay what you want to pay or something. But you don't have to go to that length. That's beautiful, and people who are able to do that, I love those people, and they make me feel really good about humanity. But you can just hold that feeling of everyone's being treated fairly, everyone's being honored and loved. And then when you be it in here first, but then when you go out into the world, because you've been holding that vibration within yourself, you're more likely to see a person who's, sitting on the street in clothes that look really dirty. I'm trying not to use the word homeless because I recognize that's a bit of a label. But a person who's obviously down on their luck and probably hungry, probably cold, and you might be more likely then to treat that person as you would if you saw a child or someone you knew or a family member in that same position with those same clothes on. So that's being that. That's embodying it. And I think that the simplicity of that means so much when you think about, this is something I know from going to Abraham workshops all the time. I remember Abraham would say that one of the questions Jerry would ask himself about, when he was thinking about, well, is this the right thing to do or is this not the right thing to do? He would think, well, what if everybody did it? Then how would the world look? And so if everyone was being that and holding that vibration and that intention, and then because of that, they would have thoughts that would come to them that would match that vibration of everyone being treated equally and fairly, and they would be more likely to act upon those thoughts, to say things to others that were supportive. I think that one of the things that I see, and I like to comment on some of the things I see in the New Age, even though inevitably someone who really supports one of those things watches these videos. But this is going to be very non-specific, okay? But what I see happening a lot of times is that people are overcomplicating things. Okay, so I am going to get a little bit more specific. The whole idea that this, and this have to happen before we shift, as if things happening in the outside world would ever make up for a lack of harmony, peace, love, compassion in here. Because they won't. No, it doesn't matter if there's full disclosure. It doesn't matter if all the people in every cabal are arrested and taken to some country where they try criminals, like The Hague, wherever that is. It doesn't matter. Let me finish. It doesn't matter if these things happen if the change hasn't happened in here enough yet. So you could see all those things happening and see all the truths coming out that you want to see come out and feel really good and like, I'm validated, all these things I believed in were true. But if you're still holding things in here that aren't a match to that world, then that world will just recreate itself. You know, like the end of Return of the Jedi, the defeat of the Empire, you think, well, that's the end of that. That'll never happen again. But then a new one they call the New Order. Is it the New Order? I think so. Not as crazy about the newer Star Wars. But something else popped up in its place, and there was a guy that was very Emperor-like, and an apprentice that was very Darth Vader-like, and a Death Star all over again. So obviously the people hadn't changed enough to have the world that they ultimately wanted to live in peacefully with Ewoks. So yeah, it's not that complicated. We like movies that make things complicated, and we like stories. It's good for the mind. It keeps the mind occupied. It makes us feel like we have a purpose. Like, think about The Wizard of Oz. So in The Wizard of Oz, they go on this journey, and it's this long journey on the yellow brick road, and they meet up with all these scary people on the way, the wicked witch of the whatever, and, you know, Scarecrow is on fire at some point, and the flying monkeys, and they have all these trials and tribulations along the path, and then at the end, they all are told, essentially, you know, you had what you were looking for inside of you all along. So that doesn't mean that we don't want to still experience wonderful works of art like The Wizard of Oz. Because of course we do. We like that. It's fun. It's interesting to watch. And even though all of those characters could have saved themselves a lot of time and energy by just, you know, listening to the "Be the Change You Want to See in the World" quote, bumper sticker. I think Wizard of Oz was probably made before Gandhi. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't have to be that complicated, even though we like thinking that this crystal has more power, you know, because it's a powerful crystal, you know, and it was Lemurian, and it was buried, and it has stored all this information in it, and, you know, you can be more powerful with the crystal than without it. But still, ultimately, you want to be powerful within yourself. And know that the world, because the other really powerful statement that Seth made in the Seth material channeled by Jane Roberts was, you create your own reality. So that's how you're doing it. You're creating it from within here, and then everything out here reflects it. It's really that easy. It's really that simple, and we make it more complicated. So this video has been about, to summarize, my belief in simplicity. And when I hear something like that Gandhi quote, I just feel like that says it all. So then, of course, there's the, well, how do I do that? And I've got all this pain, I've got all this anxiety, I've got this and that. So then the how, I think that's where people step in, people who consider themselves to be a spiritual teacher come along, or your cat just comes along and says, look, I want the world to be filled with purring and just like chilled out behavior, so that's what I'm going to do all day. But people can come along and help you find this in here, this peace, through all the thoughts and all the emotions and all the trauma. And hopefully a good teacher does that and doesn't just prescribe you some anti-anxiety medication or something. So that's that. That's my video. Blessings to all of you. See you again tomorrow night, and cultivate what it is you want to see in the world inside of you. And by the way, me saying that doesn't mean that I'm mastering this in my life in every moment. Still learning, still benefiting from little nuggets like that of wisdom. So I just like to talk about the stuff. Take care, everyone. Good night.